effort for the marquee restoration.
So we bought the building, remodeled it. Looks nothing like it used to.
The ugliest Christmas sweater I've ever seen.
Me too.
Well, we got a couple people on. Welcome to Mavericks Podcast on this Monday, April 19th. It's certainly, if you look outside, the trees are starting to bud. We have some green out, but it's chilly, and we're going to have a couple of nights, Tuesday and Wednesday morning, that'll be below the freezing mark. And I'm hoping I get an opportunity to head out to Otter Creek Orchard in St. Ansgar and talk to Dallas and Kara Joe, anyone that's been affiliated with them. It's been a nice story, and they're expecting to do a little bit of maintenance and really expanding. But I have Alpha Roofing Company as my main sponsor. I appreciate those boys. Again, they are going to be putting their shop in southern parts of Mason City, just north of Highway 18 on the east side of the road. I'm hoping I hear something from them one of these days, but that is not why we're here. We are here to talk to my brother. It's the first time I have had an opportunity to actually do something in my almost now over a decade of doing stuff with news and whatever else that I decide to do in my life, including entrepreneurship. But we're getting to go live and talking about this, and I'll welcome Jacob Nelson and his family to the show. Jake, welcome.
Howdy.
So
ready to go.
I mean, I know enough about you. I remember, the best story, and you're really tired of hearing about this, but I'll say this. And I feel like every time I come home, I tell this story. So when my brother was born, 1990, May 12th, he was supposed to come May 10th. May 10th, there was a major snowstorm that hit most of the Midwest. About 3.2 inches of snowfall fell on May 10th. My brother decided to come 2 days later, didn't want to come on May 10th, but he came home, I think, on May 13th or May 14th. And I remember my parents telling me specifically to go somewhere. So I was in kindergarten at that point, and we were getting shipped out. I lived in the Madison area, we did, and we were getting shipped out to Martinsville from Wanakee, which is about a 10 to 15 mile bus ride. That's a lot for a 5.5-year-old. And I remember my parents, they were going to be like, hey, we're going to pick you up in Martinsville. And they almost forgot me. So that's kind of they did. They ended up picking me up in Wanakee as I was the last kid off the bus. But I appreciate them picking me up after at least a couple of minutes. It wasn't a couple of hours, but that was how we welcomed Jacob Nelson to this planet Earth, although he was probably around a little bit earlier. Anyways, if you do have some questions, please, this is going to be an hour full, jam-packed of all kinds of fun stuff. And we already have my mom, our mom, it's not just yours, it's our mom, saying hi, family, and my Aunt Sue. She says, hello, nephews. Yeah, so we got Aunt Sue, and we probably have some more people above watching us as well. Well, hopefully. 63 people on, and we're hoping that we have a jam-packed hour. But if you do have some questions, including my mom and my aunt, anyone that wants to ask Jake a question or myself a question, you may do that.
For the both of us?
Yeah, for the both of us. But first question I want to ask before we get to our first subject, which will be sports. Where did you get the name Newman from, by the way?
You.
Well, explain the story a little bit. Well,
I mean, growing up, obviously, that was your name for how long? And a lot of my friends just kind of ticked onto that. I think it picked up steam around early middle school, mid-middle school. I know it was big in high school because that's how the older people referred to me, as your brother. So that kind of just carried through, obviously, life, and stuck with me, still sticks with me. So when I hear that name, bursted out loud somewhere, it's a reaction to look, and it's only a few amount of people that it could be, but it's still out there. That's for sure.
Well, okay. So the story is back when I was, I think this goes back to 6th or 7th grade. We had a rec center in Denmark, where we're both from. We're from Denmark, Wisconsin, which is about 10 minutes southeast of Green Bay in the southern edge of Brown County, real close to Lake Michigan in eastern Wisconsin. And my Kevin Conkle, who actually, when I mentioned that I was going to be doing this podcast with you, he liked the page. He would always come up to me. Yeah, he would always come up to me and say, "Hello, Newman." And my creative friends just decided that they didn't want to call me anything but Newman, and that's how it stuck. My cousin Greg Thompson started calling me that. Nathan Kufka, Ryan Leiterman, Matt Schneider. These are all some of my friends. I don't want to say former friends, but friends, of course, from my younger days, and that kind of stuck. Speaking of sports, are you keeping up with any of the sports stuff now going on, or give me the lowdown of? I know you're an NBA fan. You're a huge Kobe Bryant fan. What are you keeping track these days on for sports?
The NBA, I've not watched a lot, honestly, and I don't know what it is. And it started before, it was right around COVID, where I just kind of lost the taste of sports. Obviously things just went away. Everything went dark, and then when things started picking back up, I don't know if it's just a lack of fans, if it's just a lack of the atmosphere while you're watching the game, what it is. But it took me a while to get in. Like, even when the NFL season started, I didn't watch it right away. I didn't watch the first 3 or 4 games, and all of a sudden it just kind of started clicking, where I guess that fan part of it didn't bother me as much. Because when the NBA started their rebirth kind of in Orlando last year, I don't know, I didn't really like it. It just felt like they were in a weird gym, kind of an open gym, summer league kind of thing, where it just didn't have a good vibe, good feel, where you're used to watching games. There's a crowd reaction. So I've not watched a lot of the NBA. The NFL, obviously, I basically cried when the Packers lost this year, because come on.
Yeah, that was their chance, I thought.
But the NFL,
go ahead.
That was their chance. I mean, that was probably their most talented team they've had in obviously years. And after that, I kind of started to watch the NCAA March Madness stuff. I was at a recent bachelor party, and they were playing, and I was watching, and it's like Alabama's a 2 seed, and I'm watching with a bunch of sports guys, and they're just like, yeah. I'm like, well, I didn't watch it. I have not watched it. And I just think a lot of it has to do with COVID, and there's just no fans. There's no experience for me to watch and have general interest. Now, granted, with the NCAA, I think there's just no huge name marketing basketball. Like 2 years ago or last year was Zion. At least you could try to watch a star that might have been born or is about to be born, and things like that, where, again, I mean, were the Badgers good? I don't know. That's bad of me to say, because I've watched a tournament like that for years. I've picked them. I've filled out brackets. This year was one of the first years people have asked me and said, how's your bracket look? And I said, didn't even fill one out. I don't know who's good. I have no idea who's going to make it. You could have, obviously, from years past and just looking at the team names, you could probably figure out maybe who's going to win and who's not going to win. But I mean, I don't know, with that regard. And
well,
to be honest with you now, like with the yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, usually with the NCAA.
I was going to say, I want to, yeah. I know there's, if anyone's wondering, we're talking over each other. It's because we're brothers and we're probably thinking the same thing. But I do agree with your statement that since, I mean, it's gone away from me definitely since COVID. And it's one of those situations, I think, from a psychological point of view, once you lose it, I don't know if you ever come back, and that can be for anything. That can be for if, and they always, the cliche is, once whatever the cliche is about riding a bike, you never forget about it. But there are certain things that your mind is always programmed to be able to do. One is eat, one is drink. Of course, maybe riding bike is one of them. But if you don't train all the time, your body forgets about it and you lose muscle. If you don't keep teaching yourself different things like reading or going back to school and educating yourself, you're not furthering your brain, and until I think will also hurt your mental health, and that can hurt other things. But on the subject of sports, absolutely. Like, I've gotten away from it, and this has some to do with politics, and it doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to talk about if I'm left or right here, and that it doesn't even matter. But one thing is for sure, and people that want to comment, go for it. But I don't remember Larry Bird or Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky or Joe Montana or Bo Jackson, any of these guys trying to use a platform for anything. I don't. There are certain things that I think you can talk about, and there are certain things that you don't. And Michael, and you and I, Jake, have talked about this. Michael Jordan, if anyone wants to take a look at the epitome of what a great businessman is about, And it can be a CEO, or it could be a brand, or it can be an athlete. There's a reason why he's a billionaire and why his market and his name is still one of the most marketable and most recognizable names out there for not only a single person, but also a brand and what made Nike Nike. It's because of Michael Jordan and people like LeBron James, even Aaron Rodgers. There are people that just need, and I'm not going to say shut up and dribble, and I'm not going to say just, but I think they have to pick their battles with some of this stuff. Just my opinion. Just want to talk about that.
Well, I mean, like you said, Michael Jordan. I mean, he's an icon. I mean, his documentary. I mean, people hear Michael Jordan's making a documentary. People are going to stop, make sure they're watching on Sunday.
I still watch it.
I mean, who didn't watch it? Really? I mean, just a general interest in who the man was. I mean, obviously we didn't have sports, so maybe those ratings kind of helped in that regard. But even if there was a Game 7 World Series, that might have been taken away from who was watching what. I mean, it's Michael Jordan, like you said, great businessman, great marketing, and you know what the logo stands for, in that regard.
But there are more and more athletes that are coming out and saying that they don't watch the sport because of this. Brett Favre just did that this past week, getting criticism for it. I saw Gary Sheffield today, who is probably not the most likable person, especially in Wisconsin sports, as what he did to Milwaukee and how he left and how he basically just got out of his contract. But I think there's definitely going to be more people and big-time athletes that are going to come out, especially ones that are not scared to talk, including both of these sides, Brett Favre and Gary Sheffield, that maybe these figures need to be more of a role model and not just stand on one side of the platform, but be leaders in the community. And I know LeBron is doing some of that stuff, but I do feel he is pushing, and some of these athletes are pushing some of the stuff where it doesn't need to go. And that's all I'm going to probably say on that.
I agree with that part.
All right.
But I mean, when go ahead.
Last thought.
You're ready.
Last thought.
I think once the fans get back into these games, I think it'll be a whole lot better. I just think it's just that whole, like when Lambeau Field gets packed on Sunday, it's going to feel like a game again. If the Lakers make it to the finals again, Staples Center's filled up again, Brewers game day against the Cubs packed. Not at Miller Park. What is it now?
American Family. Is it American Family Insurance Park?
I don't know. It's Miller Park.
Yeah.
Well, once I think a lot of that will start to help people kind of get back into things, and hopefully we can get back to a normal field on that.
Yeah. So I'm with my brother. He has Jake Newman on there. We come from the same mama and daddy. Don't worry, it's Jake Nelson. That's his real name. Having him on for the first time in front of a live audience, which is really fun for me for the first time since I've been doing TV or anything media. I think this is something that's definitely long overdue, and I'm finding out a little bit more about how he ticks. And if you have questions at the end, I'll go through the comments and I will answer all of them. I know I have a few comments and questions that we'll go through, but I'm curious. I know what makes me tick, and one of the things that I always talk about is, I may be a black sheep in the family, I may not be, I'm not sure. And they always ask me, hey, are you close to your brother? I said, yeah, I mean, we talk, we're close, but it's not like, I think guys are just different.
Yeah.
Guys don't have to call. I mean, and maybe there are some guys, I don't want to be stereotypical about this, but we are not the type that are going to call each other every single day and like, hey, are you still breathing? Hey, I've been breathing for a while here. I mean, we text, we find out what's going on major issues, or, hey, when are you coming home next? Hey, when are you coming to help me take my Christmas tree down? Some things like that. But I'm fine. I want to find out specifically what you do and what makes you tick day to day.
Well, I mean, day-to-day stuff. I mean, obviously making sure family's taken care of. I mean, that's one above all. Prior to that, I mean, who knows? I mean, you're waking up, you're kind of just walking through life until you kind of find that purpose. I think my purpose is once I started having a family, finding a career, and just kind of getting into that daily routine that I generally do. I mean, it's waking up, getting the kids ready, making sure they're ready to go, they're fed, they're whatever it is, they're showered, combed, dressed, ready for school, make sure they're focused, get them to school on time. And then obviously then I dive into my career. And my career is sales. And a lot of my sales calls, a lot of them, I'll say, well, what's your title? What's your position? And I've always joked that I'm a part-time sales guy, but I'm a full-time father. And that can be a lot of, and it's relatable depending on who's on the other side of the call or who that is. And they say, oh,
you're such a bullshitter.
Well, it's a lot of those things like when you're trying to drive a conversation, it helps to relate, connect, build bond, rapport on those things.
Mm-hmm.
But sales, that's what it is. You're finding people to talk to. Whether I think I've been good at that or not, I mean, obviously is remain to be seen.
Well, they haven't fired you yet, so you're doing all right.
Not yet. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's days they'd probably want to get rid of me. But now that, I'm working from home, a lot of people just don't see me. So you're virtual and it's to yourself. So, I mean, to recap, it's family and career is what makes things go. Without my career, obviously I can't provide for family, but family comes before all. So I think that's
who in your life, it can be anyone, and this isn't a trick question, and I can even follow up with what you're going to say after or how I feel, but who inspires you? Who inspires you day to day to be the man you are? If it's family oriented, if it's something career driven, if it's something spiritual, what inspires? Well, who and what inspires you? Good question. Yep, I know.
Well, it's it's who you really want to be in the morning. Who you want to be throughout the day. I mean,
I think we all naturally, we're humans. So we try to find out, like for me, for example, for me, when I was a meteorologist, I found mentors that I could watch, that I could throw ideas around, that I could emulate but not copy. And that throughout my life has led to, I think, some success for me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we're a copycat. It's all in our DNA. So, I mean, for you've had to see something in your life that's led you to become the man you are.
Family, maybe friends of family, who you grew up around. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, obviously, we have mom and dad, but, a lot of times like growing up, I mean, I was babysat by who? Grandma or grandma and grandpa, or if it's an uncle, or if it's you, if it's cousins, if it's, and for me, you always kind of take a little bit from every scenario and every person. So, I mean, a lot of people have molded me to who I am. And then, you take the good with the bad. You see a lot of good in everyone. There's a little bit of bad in everyone who is perfect. But you look at that and say, well, I don't really want to be like that. So you try to obviously shy away from those actions or those words or how they done things. And that's where I am today, 30 years old, and maybe not dad of the year, but I'm working on it. And maybe not employee of the year, but I'm working on it. And, you just find people that you want to be, if it's athletes, if it's, like you said, family, or people you come around on social media, or people that all of a sudden were overnight successes. And how do you find that lightning in a bottle, and just everything in that regard? You just emulate it and bring it all to life.
With Jacob Jonathan Nelson, his real name Jacob, middle name Jonathan, last name Nelson with an O-N. And interesting story about how we got into the Nelson clan and the O-N clan is my grandpa, my brother and I, our grandpa, his family was Nelson with an E-N, but accidentally at the birth certificate, when they signed it, it went O-N. So all of his brothers and sisters and throughout the whole family was E-N, but we are the entitled Owens, and that's the way it probably will always be. So we are E-N, so Nelson, N-E-L-S-E-N, but my grandpa, who could have been a difficult man at times, decided to go O-N, even before he knew he was difficult.
Yep.
So that's a little bit of history about our family, and we'll talk about some of those humble beginnings in a bit. Again, I want to reiterate here, we're about 20 minutes in. Appreciate Alpha Roofing Company for being our main sponsor. If you have questions, got about 35 people on, please ask questions. We will answer them at the end. I know Christina and I'm sure other people, including Eric Hooter McCabe, will be asking certain questions. He's on, yes. That's we got some interesting people on already. My Aunt Sue already talking about COVID in sports, so this will be good. I want to get on the trail of entrepreneurship. So the whole idea of this podcast being Mavericks. And when we think of Mavericks, we think of people that are inspiring, influential, and bold. It can be at a local level, community level, or it can be even broader. So I know you read sometimes. Who is your all-time favorite entrepreneur that you've read about, and why?
I mean, if you really think about true entrepreneurship, I mean, Steve Jobs. I mean, you can name off obviously a lot of them, but Steve Jobs, I think, is just the most. He's an entrepreneur. He's an inventor. He is obviously a huge name and icon throughout the 21st century of making things that have been easier for us. I mean, who made the iPod? Who made the iPhone? I mean, that is just, and then you know, obviously after his death and everything, he became probably even more bigger and more popular. Documentaries, videos, books, etc., podcasts, people that knew him, that maybe thought they knew him. I mean, the information that comes out about Steve Jobs is incredible. It's one of those guys where I think, you know, who'd you want to meet of all time? Maybe that's deceased or living. He would be probably the top of my list. To pick his brain. I mean, I remember watching a movie, and some of these little tidbits, I don't know if I just didn't know or if I just didn't comprehend when reading about him, but showing up to high executive meetings with no shoes on. I mean, you gotta be different, or you're just in a different world and mindset where things like that can happen, and who cares?
Yeah,
I mean,
and the interesting thing about Steve Jobs is he's such a polarizing figure. Either if you've, I mean, clearly Jake and I I've never met Steve Jobs, and now we never will. But he was a guy that you either loved or you hated, and Steve Jobs didn't care. He cared about revolutionizing an industry and changing the world. And speaking of that, it's funny that you said that.
It's there. It's there.
One of the best quotes that you'll ever hear, and I feel like now that I've become a full-time entrepreneur, this is something that I live by, and I think a lot of people should live by. And I'm going to talk about a quote as well right after this with about Elon Musk that becomes even more intriguing. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Let me say that one more time. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. So no matter what, you know, there's a lot of people out there, maybe not a lot, there's a few people out there I know that, for me personally, will say, why the hell did you leave TV news to go and do whatever? And why are you so far away, you know, when your family lives in Wisconsin? I think everyone on this planet is bred and is wired a little bit differently. And for me, I live by that motion. I live by that motion that I do want to find something I think I have something in me that I can change the world. And I think we all do. We all have qualities, we all have strengths, and we all have weaknesses. And I thought it was and we'll get back to Steve Jobs in a second because sometimes I trail off, but there's a really, really good Elon Musk quote, another amazing entrepreneur that now is probably now, and I said now twice there in about 3 seconds, but he is on the pedestal of where Steve Jobs was when he died in 2011. He keeps going back and forth between Bezos and Elon Musk of who's actually more rich. It doesn't matter. They're both geniuses. But he believes that we as a nation, we have too many smart people going into finance. We have too many people on Wall Street and not enough people building things, making the world a better place to live. I want to hear your thought on that, and we'll get back to Steve Jobs after that.
I think he also, to go on top of that quote, I think he had also mentioned that too many people
I gotta
are
let
getting,
my dog in. Go ahead, keep going.
I think he had also mentioned the fact that too many people are getting useless 4-year degrees, and people are going to school, for the wrong things, in that regard, and not getting just experience in life where, I think that's really true. I mean, people go, I think that was him. Maybe it was someone different. Could be wrong.
It was. He
had mentioned something about saying how basically like a 4-year degree is kind of semi-useless unless you're really going to put it to good work.
Which a lot of people, I mean, so when I was a kid, and I think it's starting to kind of trend down a little bit, but it was completely all about, I mean, mom and dad pushed me so hard to get a 4-year degree. And that was big back then. It still is to a point, but the trade works are important as well. We need people in manufacture. We need people in the industrial work. Look, if you look around and you wonder why the Chipotles and the Starbuckses and some of these places are shut down because they can't find workers right now. It's to find a good worker and a consistent worker on that level is incredibly challenging, especially ones that don't pay well. So these small businesses are being deteriorated basically or ripped down in the last year because of COVID, but also in my opinion, and again, this is not political, this is just my own thinking, I think we need to be done with some of these stimulants because, again, people are, if certain people are wanting to just throw out weekly stimuluses, go live in Sweden or Finland or Denmark or, one of those nations that are allowed, a socialist nation, that they just give out free stuff because we were made off, ambitions in this country. And think about all the people that are suffering in Africa and Asia and Europe and Eastern Europe that would just die for a ticket to the United States, even in Central America. That's where we need to get back. And I think Elon Musk nailed it with both of those thoughts that, it's just a sheet of paper. So the first time I went to school, sure, I learned a little bit. I definitely learned a lot the second time I went through school, but it was all mathematics. It was all just based on physics. Can I go back and do any calculus right now? Maybe, but what's it doing for me right now? It just weeded out the dummies that I had to go to school with. That's all. Yeah. That's all it did. So back to Steve Jobs though. One in a generation type guy, and probably we'll look back at the 21st century and the latter part of the 20th century and realize, what a special man. In your opinion, what made him so special?
That he could see around the corner. I mean, he could just see. I mean, when he unveiled the iPod, I YouTubed it. I don't know, this was a couple months ago. I got on the Steve Jobs kick, and it just, the ability to see, like basically to see the future, what people wanted and what they probably needed. I mean, with the whole dial thing and putting music in your pocket and then pushing it, when he unveiled the iPhone, it was like, oh, there's connectivity. And then all of a sudden, everything became this. And he could just see things around the corner where, they made the iPad. Obviously, he was a part of that, but he didn't see anything after that. So what they're doing to iPhones now, I always think like, now it's like, oh, it's the same thing. You're getting the same thing. Oh, it's a better phone. It's a better camera. I don't know if Steve Jobs would have allowed that stagnant to happen, where it's basically just doing small, minor upgrades where, he came out iPod, iPhone, iPad. Those are humongous things that not just, oh, well, we have a bigger screen or we have bigger cameras. I think if he was still around today, this iPhone would be pushed a little bit further along with maybe some newer things, or maybe they are working on things that obviously, they're very hush-hush when they want to be, prototypes, things like that. But I just think if he was still around,
but you got to remember too, I think, and I'm sure you know some of this too. So Steve Jobs was, for detail and for simplicity, I mean, he was the marker for that. Where Tim Cook he was instrumental in the supply chain and the logistics and setting up customers that allowed for not a lot of inventory to be set up for long periods of time, which drives costs down, which drives costs not only for product, but also having employees. And without Tim Cook, none of this would have ever happened the way it did, or at least it would have. It just wouldn't have blown up because, again, think about what an iPhone would have cost if you did not have certain customers that you contracted out, and the lower inventory that you had. It probably would have been double or triple. So that's the iPhone. Think about the iPad. The big thing with the iPad when it came out was the cost. It was only $500. Everyone thought it was going to be $1,500 to $2,000. And now the only thing that they really have, and you're 100% right. And there are so many analysts out there that pay attention to businesses like that. If Steve Jobs was around, things would be much, much different. Sure, they have the phone or the Apple Watch. They have iPhone Fitness. They have iFitness. They have certain of these small elements, but they just don't market them the same way. No. And I do think that if Steve Jobs would have lasted maybe until 2015 through his pancreatic cancer, but she actually ended up living for 7 years, which is remarkable. He should have just had surgery right away. But I think the iTV would have been much different.
Apple TV, yep.
Yeah, would have been leading the charge, and it would have probably been iTV because they only switched it to Apple TV because I believe Tim Cook wanted a legacy outside of the i, which was basically a trademark of Steve Jobs.
Yep.
But I think that would have been different. The streaming services would have been different, and they both would have probably pushed the edge on the TV industry and the streaming industry. And they're struggling right now in the streaming industry. Netflix and Hulu, they're getting their butt kicked right now by those, and there is really no Apple TV.
No.
I have done some research, and I don't know if you have too, and we can talk about this as well. And this kind of leads into some more 2020s, but I have heard some electric vehicles or EV going on in some of the Apple laboratories, which would be on track to what you want for some of the technology. Have you heard about any of that?
Yeah, some of the electronic websites, like BGR.com and some other, if you find it on Yahoo, they'll talk about how they're trying to patent things and they're trying to sway like engineers from different car making companies and things like that. And, is that one of those things that Steve Jobs maybe would have beat Elon Musk to, for the Tesla? I mean, would we have had Apple cars before Teslas? I mean, if he was still around and healthy, and obviously, because obviously once pancreatic cancer kind of kicked in, I think he kind of declined a little steady downward, but could that have been it? Maybe, but I know they are on track. I know they say like throw it like 2030, maybe, but again, if you're building a car from the scratch and you're trying to make it an Apple product, I mean, that's going to take years if it didn't already start.
Well, what they have to their advantage is they have the most capital available than any other company in the world. They have $200 billion in capital, and that's after building the brand new state-of-the-art headquarters that actually does not have a single straight line of glass. It's all curved. Every single part of that Apple headquarters is amazing. And there is some news. It's getting to be now, it's a year. I think it's about a year, maybe less, that Johnny Ive, who was like Steve Jobs' number 2, he left Apple as well. They were talking about some conflict between Tim Cook and Johnny Ive. I have no idea, but people were talking. Yeah, not Ives. I said Ives. Yeah, but they were talking. There could have been something going on there. Maybe that's the beginning of the end for some of their platform stuff. Who knows? But for now, they're staying as the number 1 company in the world.
Yeah, and that's basically the icon. I mean, they have the iPhone. They'll have the Apple Watch. I mean, until they come out with, their AR glasses or whatever they're really working on, virtual reality stuff, that'll probably be their next hit. But, who's creating that? I mean, Johnny Ives was the guy that created everything. He looked at everything, every detail. I remember watching when they unveiled the Apple Watch. I mean, he had sketches for like years of what it could look like, what it possibly could look like. I mean, thick stacks of what he thought it maybe could look like. And that's the guy. And he's not there anymore. So who takes that part? I mean, he's another special brain behind was Steve Jobs really the guy that was ticking it, or was it Johnny Ives? I mean, they go hand in hand.
Well,
with a lot of things.
I would agree, but the qualities that Steve Jobs possessed, without you take Steve Jobs out of the equation, and Apple disintegrates after the Coke CEO basically ran them down. What the heck is his name? Stokely?
I can't remember.
I can't remember. He was the one that ended up pushing Jobs out, and then he ended up coming back after Pixar went public, and he made a couple of $1 billion and kind of last second ditch, and they had 90 days before Apple was going down, and then he went and called his buddy Bill Gates, and Bill Gates bailed him out, because that was important for Microsoft as well. A lot of people were questioning why Microsoft would go and bail out a competitor. They weren't a direct competitor. One was doing hardware, one's doing software. So if a hardware company goes out, and the relationship between the two, that's a huge opportunity for them. And it was only like 500 million, I think he asked for. I mean, that's pennies for Microsoft, which is still kicking butt. And they're still in the software, and they're going more in the cloud, venture, and they're doing more of the, they're going the complete opposite way of what Apple is doing. So for Bill Gates, that was smart on his part to bail them out. And whatever you want to say about Bill Gates, I know he's another controversial guy, especially now with the with their nonprofit and doing their vaccine stuff and all that. But I mean, there's no denying the brilliance on that guy. Final thoughts on Steve Jobs?
Wish he was still here. That's all I can say. I wonder what the world would be like if he was still here. So,
well, you wonder. You always think about these people that have huge legacies. You think of one guy behind me, James Dean. You think of Elvis Presley. You think of Tupac Shakur. You go to
the nearest was Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant, another one.
I
these guys are going to live in infamy because they died early and they were so great. And think about someone, and I go through a lot of the stars, so to speak, but think about someone like Eminem or Brett Favre or Shaq. Are their legacies gonna change or stay the same if they would have died early or continued to live on for a long time? And that's a question you have to wonder. But I agree, Steve Jobs probably gonna go down as one of the greatest inventors of all time. All right, let's move on. Some funny moments, man. Oh man, and we can go on and on and on. But one of the funnier times I think of our lives being able to work together was when I owned the online book business, Real World Books. And that was during my some of my college years. And I would invite you to come along. And so I'll give you a little background so Amazon, before Amazon became true Amazon, they really banked on reselling textbooks. It was a big thing. Even when I went from college in 2003 to 2004. I remember, Ryan Steffel, his parents, Greg and Sue, they were always pushing me to like, hey, you should go on this Amazon website and resell these, your textbooks. You're going to get more money for it. That's the first time I can remember. This was back in 2004 of someone talking about this. And this kind of lingered on into the latter 2000s when I went back to school. And I went to a Goodwill one day because, again, Jackie, we could talk about it, is now my ex-wife. She always liked going to Goodwill, and I was always stuck by the book section. And one day I came across a calculus book, and I'm like, what is this doing here? And I'm like, this has got to be worth some money. Looked at it, it was worth like $70, and that's how it all started. I started out slowly, and it went, all of a sudden went bonkers. I decided to go to every thrift store on my day off, and then you and I teamed up. And
I was doing it on my days off too. All you had to do was set me up, and I'm like, this can't be that easy.
So how we would do it is, back then, did we have Blackberries? I can't remember what we did, but we would type in the ISBN, which is the International Standard Barcode number, and we would type that in, and we would be able to figure out. It would take us some time which books were which, and we got to be so good that we would be able to pick out certain books at that time, and just kind of go from there. And we would a couple of times we went to Des Moines, and I remember St. Louis a couple of times.
I remember Des Moines. I remember St. Louis.
Yeah, and we went to these huge book sales with these crazy people that would be scanning stuff, and I would come home. Jake would barely be able to get in the car because we had so many books in there. And remember my Superman Grand Prix or Grand Am car? Took that. No. I take that back. I rented a car. That was St. Louis. That was St. Louis when I decided that you had to do it, because when we came back from not Des Moines, what was the first Iowa stop? Was it Coralville? Oh, yeah, Coralville in Cedar Rapids. We went to Coralville, and I remember we were sitting there. We're like, well, how big is this sale going to be? Is there going to be a couple people? Are we going to be the only ones there? And there was all these people there, and there was this huge store, and we just kept piling books, and it's like, this couldn't be that easy. And it was back then. It was that easy. Yeah, and it was just simple. I can't remember if I had the BlackBerry or if it was something different, but we had to make sure those phones were charged, that we weren't on them. And that, I mean, it was go time, because those people were doing the same things. It was almost like a Black Friday kind of like thing where you were in there, and it was like doing elbows, and like you had to go to the certain sections, and like obviously like certain things where, you're not going to go buy children's books. Those weren't valuable, but you had to go to textbooks or biographies, or I can't remember what was popular then. I mean, textbooks, anything scientific, anything that was like first edition that could be read in college. Biographies were good. History. We ended up, I mean, we got to a point where we could just kind of, we know that one. Let's grab that one. And then we would make sure we got the good ones. And then we would go through, and especially the sections, like we would hit, we would never do fiction, because fiction was crap. No, but we would do nonfiction, usually educational. Nonfiction, books. Math, business, architecture. I mean, things like that were medical. As long as you could find the latest edition, they were worth money. And I remember, was it Des Moines, where I found those books on tape, and I thought, well, let's look at those, and they were worth some money. And I thought, we took a chance on them, and those, I think you told me, those were starting to sell just as good as some of those higher end books. And I thought, who the heck still reads books on tape? And we ended up having a whole section of them. So at the time, I was living in an upper bungalow on just southeast of campus at UW Milwaukee. And I mean, we had a nice built-in library that was literally built in. And it was probably, what do you think? Maybe not 20. It probably was like 20 by 15. It was a pretty big room, and it was built-in shelves. And then how many bookshelves did we have in there? I mean, you could barely walk. There was probably 12 other bookshelves in there. I remember at one point we had like 4,000 or 5,000 books. I went down. Dad and I went down to Naperville, Illinois, because some guy was selling his whole book. Literally his whole book collection, because he was a bookseller. And we had to borrow Uncle Carl's truck. And Dad and I put so many books up there, and half of them weren't good. But I mean, I think it ended up being like $400 I talked him down to, because he was asking like $2,000 for it. I'm like, I'm not. And he had it on there for a while, and I think I ended up buying it for like $400 or $500. And I mean, I made money times 5 on that. Yeah. Well, yeah, because all those books were in that basement at that time when you moved from Milwaukee to Vegas. And those had to go somewhere. I don't know where they went, but I remember hauling them up, if they went into the U-Haul or if they went elsewhere. But I mean, even when you were at your probably highest point there, I mean, there was books like creeping into your kitchen. Well, one day, so Jackie was the one that would wrap it all, and then I would bring it.
Yep.
One day,
Yep.
and it would always get crazy about 2 or 3 weeks before college. One day, we sold 44 books. 44 books we sold, which doesn't seem like a lot, but we started maybe selling 1 or 2 a week, and then all of a sudden we went crazy and started buying, and it was, I mean, we were making probably $300-400 every month, or was it every 2 weeks that it cashed out on Amazon? And remember, Amazon takes 15% plus like $1 every book, and we were still kicking some butt. But it was, I think it was like 42 or 44 books. And I mean, I ended up, they knew me by name at the post office. People started knowing me by name. They're like, oh, there's Chris again. I mean, literally, I mean, that's how nuts it ended up being. And it was fun. And who knows, if I wouldn't have got into the news business, who knows which way that would have carried me. And we had some funny moments. I can remember, and I don't want to get too graphic with this, but I can remember one time I had to go to the bathroom so bad that I thought I could make it to the next town. And I said, no way.
No, you looked at me and you're like, no.
No. So we went back about 2 miles. I mean, it was bad. It was like, I'm not, my mom's like, really? You're going to tell this story? I was concerned as an adult. I didn't want to go number 2 in my pants. I mean, I didn't want, I did not want that story being told. So I remember parking, like, I'm not even kidding you, like, I felt like a block away, and I just bursted towards the bathroom. But I mean,
if I remember correctly, we ran I think we almost like ran through a stop sign. You didn't care if it was there or not. We drove into a Hardee's. I don't even know if you like parked normally. Your door was open and you just ran. You didn't even shut the car door.
Yeah, I think it was. I think I put it in neutral instead of park. But it was.
Yeah.
I mean it. And I'm not telling that to be graphic. I'm telling you that you know it's fun. It's fun to talk about these things because you don't remember exactly scanning a book or what you ate. Although I remember you and I going to Hooters one time. We won't get into that. That wasn't nothing happened there. But it's about some of these memories that you can build. And I think everyone in a state that we become so busy with our personal lives, with our families, that you should cherish those memories because again, you never know how long you're going to be on this planet. I know I got morbid there, but yeah. It's 4:47. We've been everyone's laughing about that story. I know. You know, final thoughts on any of that we talked about. Otherwise, we're going to do the lightning round.
That was fun. I look back on that, and that's one thing. Like, I mean, I've tried to do. You know, I've tried to go to the St. Vinny's and the other places to find books like that, but to replicate like that time, it was just fun. It was fun. I mean, from the one time that we went to Des Moines and we were in that one hotel, that bed was harder than a rock. I had to sleep on and I slept on, I think, that love seat, and I had allergies so bad that day, and the whole place smelled like a sausage factory. It was awful. And I think I paid like 3 or 4 days, and we stayed there one night, and I said, no, we're going to another hotel. No way. And I think what cued us was that when we came back after all that, all that book shopping, was that we had to be let in through a guard. And that's when I was like, yeah, no way.
And I know that was super cheap. It was like a grand stay or a fair stay or something like that. Something worse, but it was was it an extended stay?
Yeah,
that's
it was an extended stay. I mean, it looked good.
I remember the oven in there. So it was an extended stay. That oven Grandma and Grandpa had in the 80s. Same oven. Yeah. I mean, how did they get people in there? And I remember that bed, and we were like, all right, do you want to go on the love seat or do you want to go on the bed? That bed, I didn't even go underneath the covers. I remember like sleeping in something like this and just praying for night to end.
I think we slept with one eye open until it was morning. We got out of there.
Yeah. Second weirdest hotel experience. My first one was, and I'll tell this real quick before we get to the lightning round. I was a senior in high school, and we went down to state basketball in Wisconsin with our whole basketball team and all that. And some of my friends and I, we would probably get a little cocky, and we would have beverages that you should be drinking when you're 21. And one of my friends got beat up really bad by we're thinking like probably not so nice gang, Brandon Bush. Remember hearing that story?
A little bit.
Yeah, and that was the night that we considered if we weren't all drinking, we would have left. But since everybody was drinking, we couldn't leave, and we just locked our doors because they ended up coming back and pounding on the door, wondering where we were, and we're all like, "All right, let's just hope that we don't die tonight." All right. Final thoughts. Let's do lightning round. Do you wanna go? You wanna ask me, or you want me to ask?
I'll
Who
do
wants to
mine.
go first?
I'll do mine. I got mine. So these are it's a either or question. It's my top 60. A lot of these I did myself. Some of them I had some Google help with, but they're for you to answer. So when you're ready, you let me know.
Let's go.
Super Bowl or World Series?
Super Bowl.
Michael Jackson or Prince?
Michael Jackson.
Pen or pencil?
Pencil.
80s or 90s music?
90s.
Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
Or
Halloween or Christmas?
oh, Halloween, definitely.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Can I say both? I really don't know.
Could be both. Could be a chocolate twist. Never know.
Yeah.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Steak or pizza?
Pizza.
Los Angeles or New York?
LA.
Nintendo or Super Nintendo?
Gotta go Super Nintendo. I mean, I lived through both, but the games improved, and it was that was probably a little bit more my era.
Here's a curveball. Kelly Kapowski or Stacy Carosi?
Woo! Kelly Kapowski, no doubt.
Yeah. Morning or night?
Night. I'm definitely more of a night owl.
Yeah. Badgers or Brewers?
All my life it was Badgers, but I'm sticking with Badgers. I'm a huge Barry Alvarez fan. He is in my. If I can have 5 people at a table before I die, he's one of them, including Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I was going to ask you Packers or Badgers, and I'm like, no, because you'll pick Badgers. And then I thought maybe the Brewers, but that was one question I didn't know what you were going to answer.
Yep, Badgers.
Coke or Pepsi?
Neither.
Window or aisle seat in an airplane?
Window.
Marianne or Ginger?
Definitely Marianne. Oh, yeah.
Nike or Under Armour?
Nike.
Pancakes
Nike,
or...
And by the way, Nike is by far the best. If you want to learn anything about marketing from the very start to now, watch Nike and how they do things. And they have become a little more controversial as they're entering more of the political platform, but I think they're taking advantage of that, and they're making a lot of money from it. Agree with it or disagree with it, they're marketing geniuses. Okay.
Yeah, I love Nike's it. Yeah. Pancakes or French toast?
French toast with a little bit of powdered sugar, brown sugar, and blueberry. So one time when I was in Milwaukee, we ate at this hibachi place, and they did really good breakfasts.
Yeah.
And I ate this piece of French toast, and it still to this day is the best. The big barbecue that I was part of last summer was up there, but this is the best food I've ever tasted. Continue.
Winter or Summer Olympics?
Summer Olympics.
Cheers or Seinfeld? I've been watching Cheers lately.
Yeah.
I've been watching Cheers lately, but my answer is Seinfeld, but Cheers is gaining steam.
Yeah, my brain is Seinfeld because it's the best show. The writing is better. The writing is some of the best writing, and the creativity is the best. So that goes to me, but Cheers is more relatable to me. It's more dumb humor. It's good stuff. If 28 people that are on here, people that are eventually going to watch this, you need to watch Cheers. It's amazing. And Christina's Chris has a story for everything. It's very true.
No, I just started watching Cheers 3 weeks ago. It's on Hulu, and I just thought, everyone talks about it, and after episode 1, I was hooked.
Well, and it gets better because you like Coach, and
I love Coach.
When Coach is gone, and they bring in, I told
Woody.
you this.
Yeah.
What do you? So I have a quick story about Cheers. It was one of the last years it was around, and I used to play soccer in Alloway first year when we moved back to Denmark, and it was on Tuesdays, which Cheers was. I think it was Tuesdays when Cheers was on. Dad would literally be in the car with the car and drive, heading to Denmark, and I would have to run to get into the car with him because he was so infatuated with Cheers. I mean, I can still remember the theme song, and it puts me back into second grade watching that. Okay, continue.
Yep. Hot wings or donuts?
Oh, hey, these are good questions. I haven't had a donut in a long time, but
didn't you just have a box when you were home a couple weeks ago?
No, I gave that all to Jack. I have not had, and if my personal trainer's on here, which she gave me a hard time, I haven't been in the gym in a week. I have gotten rid of all that stuff, and I could definitely go for a donut, but hot wings, it's where it's at.
Would you rather have it 100 degrees or 0 degrees?
Oh, 100. Yeah.
French fries or mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes.
Yep. Car or truck?
2021 Subaru Outback.
That's all right. Home Alone or Christmas Vacation?
I'm going to say Home Alone because it brings back memories as a kid, but Christmas Vacation is probably a better movie.
Yeah. I agree. Comedy or horror?
Depends on the mood. Comedy, yeah, it definitely depends on the mood. Some of my favorite comedies are just like what anyone would think of comedies, but the horror is great from about August 30th until November 1st. I just get, you're the same way. I just get into a mode where and some of my favorite episodes for horror, or at least Halloween,
Roseanne, Home Improvement.
Home Improvement's another good one.
There's a couple other ones I know that are like that, and I have to watch them.
Agreed.
All right, cookies or cookie dough?
Cookies. If my mom is watching, I would love some cookies. You haven't made any for about a year. When was the last time you had mom's good cookies?
She makes them every once in a while because she comes over and does them with the kids. So
yeah, she's got a secret, and Mom, you don't have to share it, but if you want to, there's a secret to her cookies, and I can't remember what it is, but it's dynamite. I mean, her cookies are amazing. Continue.
This is going to be a tough one because we talked about both of them. Steve Jobs or Elon Musk?
Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, completely, and I may say a completely different answer if Elon Musk is in line with what he's saying, but Steve Jobs now has revolutionized so many different industries, including music and TV and computer, all three completely. Elon Musk has that chance to do that with renewable energy. He has to do that with space. He did that with PayPal, but I still need more. I need more from Elon Musk for him to get there. And I mean, they're both different. Maybe a good question that I would ask you, counter it, is who would you rather hang out with, Elon Musk or Steve Jobs?
I think I'd rather hang out with Elon Musk. Like just hang out.
See, I would probably go Elon Musk too, just because Steve Jobs, I don't know. I would love to sit in a conference room meeting. Say he decided that he wanted to buy Nelson Media Company. If you ever get a chance, watch, and you may have seen this. Watch the YouTube podcast of Andy Miller. He did the early ads on apps, and Apple bought them for, it was supposed to be $325 million, but ended up buying them for $275 million. And Andy Miller got a chance to spend the last 2 years with him. Absolutely unbelievable. Some of the stories that he has. All you have to do is Google Andy Miller, Steve Jobs, and you'll get the podcast. It's really good. Continue.
Hip hop or country?
If I had a gun to my head to say which one, I got to go hip hop.
This one I think is tough for me, but Tommy Boy or Black Sheep?
Ooh. Tommy Boy's well known, but Black Sheep is probably my favorite.
I picked Black Sheep. I mean, obviously Tommy Boy is great. They're 1 and 1A if you ask me, but something about Black Sheep, I don't know if I watched it more as a kid or however that worked, but I gravitated towards that. And
me too. I think that's my favorite.
Family or friends?
Family, no doubt.
Home-
Not even close. Even though my mom and dad can annoy me and bother me. Same with you. Like at times, like remember the last time we were together, you snapped at me about me giving you a hard time about Ian, but it doesn't
Right.
matter. Like I think
I'm still here.
blood is thicker than water. No doubt, family.
Home improvement or last man standing?
Home improvement.
LeBron or Jordan?
Jordan.
Rich or famous?
Neither.
Family. So this is more of a family oriented question. Full House or Brady Bunch?
Brady Bunch. Full House was good. Just never resonated with me. I never fully connected with it because I didn't have sisters and I didn't really have a Uncle Jesse that was like that. Maybe Uncle John, but Uncle John wasn't Uncle Jesse. Uncle John was his own person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely say Brady Bunch.
City or country?
Country.
Halloween or Friday the 13th?
Halloween.
Mountains or beach?
Depends on the mood. I would say desert before any of those. I really, really love the desert. Like Phoenix, if I could live in Arizona, if I retire someday and live in Arizona, I think that's the perfect state because you have everything you want. You have green, you have mountains. The fact that, Sedona, Tombstone, Phoenix, Flagstaff, you have such great. So I'd go Arizona.
TV shows or movies?
Documentaries. Either way.
Dine in or delivery?
Dining in, I like the experience. I feel like people that are, you get out of your element a little bit. This is something that Steve Jobs and a lot of different entrepreneurs will talk about is people grow as individuals and become smarter through experience rather than just being, kind of in your own shell. So if you're not out experience different things every single day, you're losing out on valuable information and valuable knowledge.
Agreed. Tupac or Biggie?
Tupac.
Cardio or weightlifting?
Cardio.
If you're walking or working out, are you listening to a music or a podcast? Music or a podcast?
Typically music, but if I'm lifting, which I don't do a heck of a lot these days, it's more other things. It's like a mixture of I don't know what the hell you call it. If Bridget was on, she would be able to tell me. But a lot of it's music, but there are times where if I'm biking or something, I like to not listen to anything or a podcast just so I can I have thoughts and sometimes that burns my brain, but
Hear ya. Yeah. Facebook or Twitter?
Used to be Facebook, but definitely not Facebook anymore. I'm not a huge Twitter fan either. I use it. I would say whatever is going to be the next best thing, I'll probably jump on, and not TikTok either.
No. I actually love Twitter. That's how I get all my news. Because it was down for me for some reason for over the weekend, and I'm like, okay, if someone retires or signs somewhere, or I'm watching a game and people tweet during it, like injuries and whatnot. It's like back to the 90s.
Yeah.
So, a piece of cake or a piece of pie?
Pie.
What would you rather not do, laundry or dishes?
I'm starting to get used to laundry now. I never liked laundry. I don't care as long as I have time to do it.
I hate doing the dishes. I can tell you that right now.
Well, you never had to do them as a kid. Mom and dad always let you off the hook. It was always me.
I just, still can't. Thank God for dishwasher. Shoes or sandals?
Shoes.
Couch or recliner?
My new couch is pretty sick.
Hamburgers or hot dogs? I only got 10 more.
Hamburger.
Paper or plastic?
Paper. Better for the environment.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits. Better for my stomach.
This is a debate. McDonald's or Quick Trip?
They're so different.
All the times we used to travel together, the amount of food we would eat at both of these. This was actually McDonald's or Burger King, and I switched out Burger King for Quick Trip. for this particular reason, because
okay,
no one
I
likes
remember
parking.
the last time you and I went up north together, which I haven't gone up north in a while for buck season. But I remember I couldn't even go up to order because you were staring at me, waiting to see what I was going to order because you laugh your hiney off every time. And I think it was, I'll take 3 double cheeseburgers, only ketchup, a large fry, 20-piece chicken McNugget, and an apple pie. And you're like, what?
Oh my God. I still laugh at that because and you ate it all.
Well, and the problem again, I don't want to get too graphic, is up north, you only have an outhouse. And that's a lot of
where
food.
we go.
Yeah.
Or
that's
we had to go to the bar.
To digest. Yeah.
Yeah. Which at that point, I don't think we went to the bar. We went to our place and yeah.
Yeah.
That was but Quick Trip has not been no slouch either. There's times we've grabbed 4 or 5 sandwiches each.
Yeah, I haven't had I mean, I love their food. Their food is great, but I haven't had like a good Quick Trip sandwich in over a month now just because I'm trying to train for a triathlon, which I'm not doing well at.
Puzzles or board games?
I really like puzzles. I think it's good for the mind, it's good for the soul, and it's great for mental health.
Poker or blackjack?
Sheephead.
Hawaii or Alaska?
Alaska.
I knew you were going to say that. Wedding Crashers or Step Brothers?
Wedding Crashers. Classic.
I know. Love it. Laugh every time.
Yep.
Something about it. And I know I laugh at Step Brothers too, but there's just something about Wedding Crashers that it gets me every single time.
I agree.
2 more. Amazon or Target?
I really try to shop local, but recently I've been on a kick buying nonstop books on Amazon.
Yep.
If we just had like a bookstore that was local, I would go buy there, but it's been Amazon. I don't like Target.
No. Smartwatch or a fancy watch? So you want an Apple Watch or you want a Rolex?
Garmin. I kind of want a Garmin, and I've been looking for
yeah.
a certain kind, but I haven't been able to.
And I'll put the bonus question up here. Coolio's Gangster's Paradise or Fantastic Voyage?
Fantastic Voyage.
I remember that music video like it's yesterday.
Yep. It's a good one.
When MTV was good.
So I have a friend in the news business, Whitney Martin. I worked with her in Milwaukee, and she now works in Rockford. But when she worked in Rockford, she had Coolio come up there, and they met. And
oh, really?
Coolio made Whitney do a swirl so he could see her behind.
Oh God.
Yeah. All right, I have some questions, and then we're going to be done, folks. Thanks for staying on. We'll try to answer some questions at the very, very end. Favorite movie?
Oh my. Wedding Crashers, because it comes to mind. Comedy like that. Wedding Crashers, Dumb and Dumber. I think I have a favorite of
comedy.
Like comedy for sure.
How do you find your peace?
Man, kind of just relaxing. Whether it's finding something to watch on TV or if it's listening to music, you kind of just, in a world full of anxiety, you find what works that day and you go for it.
What do you want your legacy to be like when you like your last couple of moments? What do you want people to remember you by?
Great father, great person, in that order.
Yep. What do we got here? Favorite teacher of all time?
Probably one of my math teachers. I can't remember her name.
Miss Trussell.
Yes.
Mr. Hickey.
No, I think it was Miss Trussell. I think it was Miss Trussell. That was her name. She could squeeze every last bit of everything out of me. I mean, when there's days I didn't want to do it, she would be there to just push and push and push. And, that's what you want out of a teacher. I mean, to get everything out of you. And she knew how to do it without, screaming at you. So, I mean, there's obviously teachers that gave you a hard time. Well, I mean, everyone does, but I mean, it wasn't like a constant, fight of who's better than who. It was just to get you there.
Yeah.
And she always figured, I mean, obviously there's teachers along the way that, gave you a hard time and made you do things you didn't want to do, but that would probably be one of them.
When are you going to retire?
Who knows? I mean, in a perfect world, and 65, in a perfect world, because then maybe you have 25, 30 more years of good health. Never know what medical technology is going to be like.
Stop. What book are you reading right now?
I was reading the Steve Jobs book. I can't remember what it's called. If it's just Jobs, I can't remember.
Steve Jobs. Last question. If you were on a 3-day trip and you were out in the wilderness, what would you rather have? Bread or water?
Well, you need water. You can live without food for a while. You can't live without water for that long. So I'd say water. Water.
All right, everyone.
I'm always hungry.
I know. I appreciate everyone watching. We had a pretty good crowd for most of it. Jacob Nelson, we'll have to do this another time.
Yeah, those questions made you think a little bit, didn't they?
Not really, but thanks, though. I appreciate that. All right, Jake. We'll see you later.